Hey, y'all, it is September the 14th, and thank you in advance for joining me here upon the time capsule. You know, in a sense, metaphorically, we're going to stuff ourselves into a capsule right now. And obviously, it's for someone to discover it later. Maybe not even us. Maybe some alien beings, or maybe we're the alien beings. All right, but either way, we're forming capsule. Right? And that would be the point, right? I mean, we really don't have to have another point at that point. Am I right? We're just making time capsules. We're trying to accurately depict current events and concerns in a capsule, and then 5, 10, 20 million, billion, fulfilling years later, it's discovered through some sort of archaeology, the weird kind of digital. I don't know how it's going to work because we're putting it on the internet. So it's going to be somewhere. Someone's going to have to discover it. All right. And they're going to look at it and say, hey, it's a time capsule. All right. A kind of a window into what the hell where it is we're living at right now. All right. That being said, there's no way for me to even guess. I wouldn't even guess what's the most important thing to be talking about today. I think that's why we have caught the notion to pretty much highlight the end of days, right? Because it all kind of correlates back into the end of days. And I had to admit before we even start the broadcast, right quick, it's at the end of days, it's kind of interesting as one might imagine, but I never really did imagine. I didn't think about it. I never really thought about it like this. But the end of days, as it turns out, is very, 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 I would say very, very damn entertaining. Very entertaining. I wonder how many people are noticing that, if you will. I talked to my homie, my brother, earlier today, or I think it might have been earlier today. It might have been yesterday, talking about um, the antics in which that could be viewed upon the internet and such places to be a little bit grinding and a little bit aggravating, if you will. And I forgot where we're going with this, but I'm just saying it's like it can get to you, all right? The grind, I guess. And so that's why we're over here just keeping loosey goosey vibes, if you will. Got some coconut water on this side. I don't know about y'all. Coconut water. How many people out there down with that coconut water? It's affordable. It's goddamn delicious. Especially get it ice cold, if you know what I'm saying. All right, we're going willy nilly on them tonight. Let's get it out of the way. This is a time capsule, all right, like I've established. For one thing, abundant coconut water all over the world. I don't even know how they do it. I mean, how isn't everybody drinking coconut water? All right. Donald Trump. See, and that's how it's always gone. See, Donald Trump, I was mentioning earlier, is a meme magnet. He's a meme king. He's meme royalty. He's one of those very, see, some people get to they're a meme and stuff from time to time, or maybe only one time in their life. All right, that's how it works, kind of in the world. Except 15 minutes of fame. Some people turns their 15 minutes of fame into a very long time. Uh, Shout out to the Hawk Tua girl, and I hope she does big things. I mean, I don't know why I would assume that she's going to be entertaining. Well, I wouldn't assume so, but she might be. All right, it's only one way to find out. Um, so, but all right, and going willy nilly, I've seen a couple of things. I've actually seen a lot of things, right? But I don't have them all in front of me. All right, I picked a couple of things real quick, perhaps to talk about. That would be also necessary, of course. I'd be remiss to not bring up in this time capsule. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets over in Springfield, Ohio. All right. See, that's one of those things. It's like whether or not it's the most important is debatable. It's highly debatable, but whether or not it's the most sensational is hardly debatable. That's what I've noticed. Certain things, even if they're not the most interesting, like Hawk Tuah Girl, for probably 2 days, more than likely, it's the hottest topic in the world, right? But then, of course, it's gonna get so. But Donald Trump, he's into the memes, right? Way deep into the memes, a meme wizard, if you will. There's definitely levels of it. Certain people are highly meme-acious, but I would say top tier. I don't know if it even gets more. You know what? He's definitely one of those people where I don't know if it gets more meme worthy. Is there anybody else on Earth who naturally causes meme eruptions, such as Donald Trump? Perhaps this can be measured with technology. All right. But okay, here's one thing that I wanted to mention. I seen an article about it and I actually kind of got it right in front of me. Perhaps earlier, I remember seeing an article about our man. That's right. Billy Gates. Yeah, that's right. Billy Gates. And we wish him all the best because he's our man. All right. And we never ever want to harm on Billy Gates. And we would never espouse such a thing. And I mean it unsarcastically. All right. And they're gonna have to like chop it up and edit it in order for anybody to think I ever said anything sideways about our man Billy Gates. All right. But for example, and I got it right here kind of in front of me, is on Fortune magazine, I noticed the other day. It seemed quite ominous. Perhaps that'll go in the time capsule, if you will. And I just imagine people, hopefully, people being flabbergasted to hear such developments being openly discussed in public. Um, Pretty well passive aggressive threats. Now, my man and my real man, my brother, was actually telling me earlier today that he's got a problem. He's got a problem on X and it keeps getting banned. For weeks at a time, keeps getting banned off of X. He'll then send me an example of the reasons why he's getting banned off of X. And then honestly, I read them, I think to myself, these are prime examples of probably what should get you at least a week long ban, because like, I mean, if we're being honest, they're like I told him, there are passive aggressive insinuations going on, those kind of vibes. It's not directly threatening people or even like encouraging bodily harm or whatever. It's all none of that. It's really none of that, but it's still passively aggressively that it is. And my point is that my man was being passive aggressive, right? Upon X, and X is like, you're kind of going over the line. Perhaps somebody could look at that and think to themselves that perhaps it sort of is like a threat, but a passive aggressive one, and for sure an insinuation of the passing of individuals. I don't know. I don't want to get into it too tough, but the same exact thing. I would argue the same very same thing, and even more worse. It's Bill Gates. I'm actually looking at a headline right now from Fortune magazine. And apparently this came out September the 10th. All right. So fairly breaking. Bill Gates says the world is facing two options. That's what really caught my eye. Facing two options. Bill Gates, two options. The world facing. This is what Bill Gates says and decrees. Facing two options, which means not 3, 4, 5, 12, and all sort of things. Two options. It's very simple. It's very simple that way. The headline says a major war. That's number one. It's like, dude, I wish I was making this up. It's kind of like crazy, evil, evil. Like you're Doctor Evil. This is pretty insane. Bill Gates, God bless him. I wish him only the best for him and his family, only the best. And I would never, ever endorse harm upon them. And I don't know how else to say it. I do not. But a major war is option number one. Option number two is another pandemic. Another pandemic in less than 30 years. Now, this is word for word what the damn headline says. So if it sounds like gobbledygook coming out of my mouth, I would totally agree. But it says a major war. That's option one. Option two, pandemic. Because that's from the headline, I have to admit, I have no idea. Um, oh, what the heck? Okay. Just to get back, is that I have no idea why they would be why would they be paired together like they're direct options? That you can either only have one or the other. See, to me, it seems like that's a passive aggressive threat. And you know what I'm noticing actually just now? I don't know if there's any other copied and pasted articles about Billy Gates, our dear philanthropist, hero, computer genius icon. Billy Gates was saying, this is Fortune magazine. And I come to find out it's behind a paywall, which, as we all know, means that you are so bought into the brainwashing that you're actually going to literally pay money to Fortune magazine to get behind their paywall and see what's in this article. And it's kind of, I would say, be infuriating. But however, we have positive vibes at this time while conjuring up our capsule, our little time capsule. Hopefully, it won't even take that long, right? Because I'm getting very relaxed. It's damn near 11 o'clock over here in San Antonio, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. You know what I'm saying? It's a wild west type place. A major war and another pandemic. Right? These are the two options. And wouldn't I love to hear? Wouldn't y'all love to hear why it's one of these two options? Why would it only be one of these two options? And if I did actually read it all the way through, these two options are are only two options. These are the only two options that we have. And that one of them has to happen in less than 30 years. And so it is pretty official, I would say, our discovery. I wonder if a lot of people are discovering it as well. Is that it's a human condition and a perhaps mental survival mechanism to it's to be a prophet, if you will, to say, oh, this bad thing's gonna happen, or that bad thing's gonna happen sometime in our lifetime. Devastation is gonna engulf the world, and the deprivation of being all sort of different pansexuals, that's gonna come home to roost sometime, not anytime soon, but maybe in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, sometime just after our lifetime, probably, hopefully, so that we don't have to see it and face it, the repercussions. That's one of the most famous. And to me, it seems to be meme worthy. And it's going to happen. This nightmare scenario is definitely going to unfold, but in like maybe, hopefully, in about 30 years, more or less, in about 30 years. So we can't read the article. And unfortunately, you know, if we wanted to for the capsule, however, I think we're being blacked. And it's interesting because they know it's not going to be popular. And this especially seems to me to be a great example of a propaganda piece, to be sure, but it's like kind of like throwing it out there, putting it out into reality. However, putting it behind a paywall, knowing full well that most people are not going to want to bother paying y'all any money, or even trying to hack into y'all's system or some stuff to get behind y'all's paywall to see your stupid articles, and they are stupid. But it is quite interesting. I mean, this is a guy who is passively aggressively threatening us already, it seems like, in the headline. And if he's not saying these words, then I suggest he sues y'all. But in fact, I'm pretty sure he's paying y'all in order to put out his publicity, right? And of course, he wants his ideas out in the public, especially to his brainwashed minions. But however, he doesn't really want it out in the public like that because of how insane it probably sounds and how incriminating it probably sounds, to be sure. And those are the times we're living in. That's part of the capsule. I don't know if anything else talks about it. Bill Gates on what keeps him up at night. You want to hear about that? War and another pandemic. Let's see. How I'm trying to see like how current these articles are. For example, this particular article, this next one I'm seeing that maybe is something very similar to what was in Fortune magazine, because the Fortune magazine article that we were not allowed to read, the one in which the headline we were discussing, came out 5 days ago, according to Google. And then right below it is another article, but it's done by CNBC. And it was done 6 days ago. So, perhaps pretty much the same stuff. Bill Gates on what keeps him up at night. War, comma, another, let's see what the hell they talking about real quick. And this is on Fox News, it seems. Or no, I'm sorry. Same difference. CNBC. All right, hold on real quick. I don't know that we're going to read the whole article. Smarter new online course, Master Your Money for $53. I wish I could. It's a good idea. Okay, but CNBC article says, and I do believe like the likes of Bill Gates pretty much owns CNBC, to be honest. MSNBC, I'm pretty sure, obviously. Bill Gates on the number one thing that keeps him up at night. If we avoid a big war, there will be another pandemic. What kind of psycho insane stuff is that? So if you're with me right now, you're thinking, okay, this is the same exact thing that Fortune magazine was writing about 5 days ago. Basically, probably copied and pasted each other or what have you. And they're trying to put out this word. Now, before we look in this article real quick, because it is becoming kind of interesting, I really do want to answer because obviously they're insinuating that they have an answer. Or Billy Gates, who is like a soothsayer for the times. This guy, he says, if we avoid a big war, I'm gonna have to see it in context. It's quite incriminating. He says, if we avoid a big war, there will be another pandemic, thereby saying that we better go to war. Bill Gates is basically endorsing a big war right now, like publicly. He's publicly doing that. He said either that or it's going to be a pandemic, and trust me, I know. So real quick, we're not going to spend all our time on it, and we are going to get up out of here soon. And thank you for being a part of the capsule. Of course, if someone was to stumble in before we get up out of here, and they want to contribute to the capsule, I would go ahead and let them. You know what I'm saying? As an invitation. I might have to repeat that, but real quick, I want to see what the hell Bill Gates is even talking about. Billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates has spent the past couple of decades warning the general public about ominous issues. It's like, dude, how can you even write this article? And of course, it might have been done by AI or a robot or something like that. But how can you write this and, believe it? How do you believe it? Here's a man who's supposedly a computer genius, and he's been warning about ominous issues for 2 decades. You don't find it's kind of weird, but they know he's become an expert on ominous issues, climate disasters to devastating cyber attacks. He's I mean, it sounds they could be construed as warnings, but might I imply that it perhaps could be construed as threats? Threats that he's been making for 2 decades, openly making public threats. And getting ever richer and also not paying taxes hardly, but don't never talk about that no matter what. That Bill Gates don't hardly pay no taxes. All that money he be spending, all right, and he's got way more than you could ever imagine. All right. Bill Gates, he spent the past couple of decades just warning, just crying out to the public, talking about climate disasters, talking about devastating cyber attacks. 2 potential catastrophes evoked the most concern from Gates. And we might not read this whole article, but I do want to get an answer. Why is it one or the other? And it has to be one or the other. And how come you're threatening us, but you're not admitting to it? You're passively aggressively threatening us. All right. And we're just going to let it happen, of course, because this is the type of thing that happens these days. 2 potential catastrophes evoke the most concern. A lot of unrest in today's world could spark a major war. A lot of unrest, major war. He tells CNBC make it. CNBC make it. And even if we avoid a big war, then yes, there will be another pandemic, most likely in the next 25 years. So everything's gobbledygook, and everything's copied and pasted, and numbers are all going to be fidgeted around 25 years, 30 years, 15 years, and 2 weeks, and whatever. It's like, dude, maybe in this amount of time, such is going to happen. So, but I want to hear an explanation. And actually, I don't think that they're going to give us one. But it seems as though Bill Gates said in a quote that if we avoid war, if say we avoided war, then there automatically has got to be a pandemic, and it most likely will happen in the next arbitrary 25 years. Because Bill Gates is a genius and he's here to, it's not threatening us, it's merely predicting our downfall. Scientists typically view pandemics as likely, even inevitable occurrences over time. They are indeed becoming more common due to factors like climate change, and obviously, see, that's the thing. This kind of propaganda is not only spewed, but it's actually quite popular among certain crowds, and they gobble it up and they put it into their brains, and their brains catch cancer. And I'm not trying to be funny about that, but all sort of cancer. For Gates and another global health advocates, the question isn't whether another pandemic will occur, it's whether nations will be more prepared than they were for the outbreak of COVID-19. So at this point, as many normie people have gotten so far withdrawn from the spectacle that was COVID-19 and COVID-19 protocols and COVID-19 lockdowns. I mean, if I just say those words, there for sure will be a warning sign up under my video, and it says, hey, it's chock full to the brim of misinformation. All right. But here's a guy over here saying, he's saying either we go into a big war or we're gonna have a pandemic. And how exactly would it be like an exclusive one of two options? Like, are you saying that if we just went to war, that would ensure that we do not in the future have a pandemic? Like that in and of itself would prevent a pandemic, because that's what it sounds like. Or it's like if we had a pandemic, if we don't have a war, if we choose not to go to more war and constantly increasing the death toll, if we choose not to do that, then inevitably we're going to have a pandemic, and it's going to be within 25 years, which is quite arbitrary of a number. The country that the world expected to lead and be the model fell short of those expectations. This guy's, man, I'm done with this article because you already see where this is going. But Bill Gates is passively aggressively, just like my homie, just like my brother, on X.com, getting banned for about a week at a time and getting quite frustrated about it. In the same exact way, and in fact, more over the top. And in fact, promoted to the top of every kind of like news feed up out of there, search engine. Bill Gates is passively aggressively threatening us with either one form of death or another form of death. And he says that really we don't have a third option, right? He's not allowing us to have a third option or something like that. It's kind of ironic, or it's not really ironic, but coincidental That the article right under the one that I was just reading right now, full of gobbledygook. All right. It's right here, and it's an article that I've seen before, and it definitely deserves to go up in the time capsule. So before we get up out of here, let me mention that, of course, when it comes to polls and things of that nature, surveys, I've never been impressed. And it's like, oh, the science, oh, the technology, oh, the this and that, it's reliable. I doubt it. But according to this article, just to read about it and kind of like ponder it in our minds, according to this article, it says 30 US, where was this from? Insider Monkey magazine, written by Sultan Khalid. Doesn't really sound very American. Probably not from America, but 30. I'm just kidding. He could be from America. It's just a joke about his name. Don't hurt me. I didn't mean it. I'm not a bigot. But 30 U.S. cities with the highest reefer, they call it weed. It's a good enough name. I don't see why not call it weed, but I like to call it reefer. It sounds a little bit more, I don't know, refined, perhaps even rugged. Maybe that's why I like saying it. But there's 30, according to these people, U.S. cities with the highest per capita consumption of reefer. So I went in, I looked into it, as I've mentioned before. It's hardly an exaggeration to say that no matter where you live, if you go at least a block or two inside any area of commerce in your town or your side of town, you are for sure going to come across an establishment that is merchants that sells reefer. All right. And I'm talking about different grades and levels of reefer, and of course they do also have CBDs. I'm sure you might as well in these sort of places, CBDs and all sort of. We're getting technical, but it's a time capsule that you understand. CBD is a very um, it's like a part of the reefer plant that became very, very popular maybe a few years ago, and still is very popular for its natural characteristics. Now, it has to be extracted like from all the THC. However, they do it some way. And the THC is like taken somewhere else, all right, and they extract it out. CBDs does do exist, but also in San Antonio, I've mentioned it's not hardly an exaggeration that they do sell the hot fire flame everywhere. I'm pretty sure whoever's not selling the hot fire, the gas, as they call it back in the day, I don't know what they're calling it nowadays. It's kind of an old term, gas. People are calling it gas, and none of it really sounds very appealing to myself. But I would call it reefer. It's smoking that reefer, and I particularly stopped smoking all sort of stuff. Stopped smoking reefers, stopped smoking the tobacco, and not really missing it. However, there are times and places in which smoking the tobacco and smoking in a reefer perhaps could be appropriate, but I'm not I'm not the person. I'm not the expert on when I should be. Right. Anyways, I was reading this article. Long story short, goes in a time capsule, and um, I found it a little bit surprising, but then again, not surprising. The top 30 cities, and they go through a whole list. All right. I don't know if you're even interested in knowing all these different places. Of course, you can find out pretty easily with your own internet search, right? But Out of all 30 of these places, San Antonio was not mentioned. And that's like the main takeaway. And that's kind of what's startling and disturbing, right? Like I said, you don't have to go far. I don't care where you are in town. San Antonio is a pretty big town. From what I understand, of course, it's a metropolis. And it's got these other little towns like inside it, all around it. Everywhere, I don't even care where, all in the San Antonio area. It's not far from you. I can promise you, no matter where you're at, if you're anywhere inside near the city, it is not far from you. What I mean is hot fire flame reefer, right? In one form or another. And in fact, usually in several different forms depending on your preference. And so I'm thinking that if in all the nation, this might be accurate, maybe it's not, maybe it's propaganda in order to mislead us. But if in San Antonio, if you can't really hardly go for 1 mile into anywhere in the city, if you really can't go hardly 1 mile or maybe 2 or 3 miles at max, and not slam right directly into a reefer store. But we're not even top 30th. We're not even on the top 30 list for consumption of reefer. What does that exactly mean? For example, at the top, if you're at the tippy tip top of the consumption of reefer, is it that you have two, three of these smoke and vape stores on every single block? I mean, how serious is it? And I mean, how serious is it? If all y'all are so much more, and then you're at the tippy tip top of this list, how serious is it? That's what I wonder. These are the main questions of the day that I wonder. How serious is your reefer consumption? If there's 30 cities at least in between you and San Antonio, Texas. And it's like people may not know, but San Antonio, Texas, there's 30 different cities in between you at least in San Antonio, Texas, and how that you're more superior at consuming reefer. I can barely hardly even freaking imagine. And I want to say Austin might have been mentioned, but I don't even know if Austin was mentioned. You know, long story short, an unbelievable amount of reefer being, and I want to say the top one actually before we get up out of here on this topic. I want to say the top one was actually somewhere in Connecticut. I don't know how to read the internet right now, right? But somewhere in Connecticut, right? Reefer, mad consumption, 2024. All right, so let's get up out of here. I have a story to share with you. How long we been here? 38 minutes? Holy shit. Time just flies by. We're deep up into the evening. And so realizing what exactly time it is makes me want to get off. Not in that way, you dirty pervert. I'm saying wants to get off the internet. Because, I'm lying down and, I don't want to get up and stay up too late. All right. Basically, I'm explaining to you in real life what's going on. But I do want to mention this real quick, and we might get into it like more. Actually, yeah, we might get into it more harder later. Because I like, first of all, it's on San Antonio Express News. I'm surprised they didn't try to charge us because Lord knows they're always trying to charge us for access to their articles. All right. But I think actually we have access to this article for some reason, maybe out of pity. They've given us access. So technically we could read it. I don't know if we're going to have time for all that. All right. We got to get up out of here. We got to get well rested for the weekend and make sure that we get very prepared for the week. It is the end of days and stuff. But in the meantime, for those people, especially who have a regimented, decent job in which they're just barely hanging on, it's like, might as well just barely hang on and wait for the reset in which is coming. I'm not threatening anybody. In fact, Bill Gates is the one threatening everybody. And it's like, man, maybe we should look into that. Maybe we should ban him from X.com and all this, although I don't think he's really into it. So before we get up out of here, that's kind of the story that gracefully San Antonio Express News decided to share with us. The headline says, Prison for San Antonio father accused of beating his toddler son that he feared was gay. I'm surprised you can even write a headline like that. In San Antonio Express News, San Antonio is known for being gay. All right, and it's kind of like recent. It didn't used to be known for that. But a Bexar County judge sentenced a father who beat his 2-year-old son, according to the SA Express News, because he thought he was gay. He was sentenced to 6 years of prison. All right. Real briefly, I want to say for this sort of thing that we're about to read about, 6 years of prison is retarded. And I don't know how retarded we want to be, but we're as retarded as I can imagine. Francisco Ricardo Sotelo Baez, a name that I certainly don't trust at all, due to the length of the name. And it's overall just in general. This guy's 23. What? So he's 23 years old. Maybe we're really we might have to get to the bottom of this because it says he's 23 years old. And I remember I thought maybe this article or a previous article that this man is a father of 5. And I don't know if maybe I'm getting the details mixed up. We're about to find out, but this man, Francisco Ricardo Sotelo Baez, was 23 years old. That's pretty damn young. That's not very old at all to be 23. Pleaded no contest to an injury to a child with intent to cause bodily injury on Wednesday, and he remained at the Bexar County Jail awaiting to be transferred to prison. The 187th District Court Judge Stephanie R. Boyd sentenced Sotelo Baez as part of a plea deal. And these plea deals are pretty damn popular, especially in this instance. San Antonio Express News and thereby does show a picture. I'm looking at. I can't like switch the camera back and forth. Unfortunately, I don't think I can. At least I don't think we have those capabilities. Or else I might share it. In fact, I can show it kind of like this. You can see the person, right? Wait, hold on a second. Yeah, right. If I do it like this. Well, apparently, allegedly, was the guy, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, although it's very, very important. It's one of those things that's just not going to be talked about uh, and as far as most time capsules. It's kind of like a very esoteric thing that most people will never ever know about. Is so I tell Baez, a father of 5. That's the next. See, the assault resulted in the child having bruising and swelling in his face. Boyd said, "I don't know if it. I mean, all right." It seems as though we skipped a part, but apparently we did not skip anything. Uh, okay, and so we're in the right place. So tell Baez, a father of 5. That's what's like really blowing my mind. And I really, really do need some sort of explanation, right? It's an explanation that will never ever be provided. Is how is this guy over here looking how he's looking? He's having 5 babies by the age of 23. And it seems as though it's the same person. It's pretty damn outstanding. So he's a father of 5, cannot have contact with his children or other minors. And he must also participate in a mental health group. Also, Sotelo Baez, who is an undocumented immigrant. Oh, there you go. God dog it. They didn't even say that. They did not even say that in the previous article that I had written or that I had read. But this guy over here has 5 children. He's an undocumented immigrant, as they said. He's an illegal invader, as I might say, but YouTube probably wouldn't like that if I did say that. He cannot see his children. He cannot again make illegal re-entry into the U.S. As it turns out, seems that we're gonna so-called banish him, send him to prison here for 6 years, and then send him off to wherever the hell he came from. But again, Soto Baez said he had been tough with his 2-year-old son. He's an illegal invader of this country and has 5 children and is 23 years old. Right? Is that a shocking and startling, pretty much common occurrence here in this country? Citing details from the police report, Boyd said Sotelo Baez slapped the boy 4 times in the face and had done so on multiple occasions to toughen him up. So, that's why he winds up going to prison. They're finding bruises on the boy. How long is this article? It's not very long, but basically what they go ahead and explain is that an illegal invader, who's it's not a big deal. In fact, these are dreamers, came here and started a baby factory, and then also um, was pretty intent on beating the gay out of his 2-year-old son. And on many levels, it's startling, and people might have a lot of different reactions to this particular story, which I delicately placed into the capsule, the time capsule. All right, September the 14th in the wee hours. Yeah, I said wee hours, 11:32 to be exact. We're about to pack it up and you know pack it in. If you feel what I'm saying. All right. So it happened to be an illegal. I mean, undocumented immigrant dreamer, if you will. And he, because his culture might clash a little bit, decided to beat the gay out of his 2-year-old son. I just want to go ahead and, be on the record. Of course, I'll be demonized, just like everybody else will be demonized. Laura Loomer is being demonized to crazy extent. I was watching a live stream of her earlier today, and that lady was calling everybody some motherfuckers on the internet. Just earlier today because she was being demonized. She was being heavily demonized. She was one of the most the big topics of the day, and it was concerning a cat fight, but a potential uh, and what's almost mundane cat fight between two Republicans in which everybody found to be so damn interesting today. All right. Um, Over here, it's an illegal invader type of a guy running a baby factory. And what I'll say is, and unfortunately, he must have just, we might be different in cultures. And I don't know if it needs to be said. But before I get up out of here, it's kind of controversial, but I'll tell you right now. I don't think, and I have various proofs that we're not going to discuss right now, but I do not think that you could be born gay. And furthermore, in kind of like a more broad stroke, I would say that I really don't think you're born with sexuality. All right. And I guess it could be implied as you're born that you will later on down in your life have sexuality. But let me just say publicly that I feel that you actually don't have sexuality when you're little bitty baby. Now, 2 years old is a little bit more than a baby, and perhaps is a child that perhaps has been walking around, maybe even for a year or so, been walking around, little baby. Um, who's to say? And I think it's all very crucial in the day to day life of a small child between 0 and, for example, 2 years old. A lot of it's very, very significant. But would would I say that a baby of 2 years old has sexuality, has an orientation, if you will? I would say no. Even at that point, they are not a sexual being. And it's at some later predestined point that is sometime in the future that then they will have a sexuality, which hopefully, I would hope, develops organically and without my interference, without the interference of dirty, disgusting people, depraved people feasting upon the children. Right. This guy, he had a different culture where he's come up from. He's over here raising a baby factory. And what I would say is that cooler heads would prevail. Here's the thing. Number one, it's a 2-year-old baby. So when you slap it across the face, might I add, and I don't think I'm being overly nervous about it, is that you could really snap a 2-year-old's neck. In fact, it's hard to even imagine you doing this, slapping a little two-year-old's face with your hand. What do you mean? How hard are you slapping this 2-year-old? I can't hardly imagine anybody ever being so dastardly. And you say 4 times, which I already know means more than 4 times. And you said on multiple occasions, how many times has this little boy been slapped in the face? For what? For playing with dolls. This boy has 4 older sisters. You're running a baby factory and there's dolls everywhere. Your son's picking up dolls and you slap him in the face. So it's retarded. It's local, of course, but it's happening everywhere as well. That and more. It's not only about the dogs and the cats and the eating of the pets. It does go to every factor. To every factor. So, like I said, don't slap a 2 year old in the face. It could very well snap their neck, I would imagine. I couldn't imagine ever doing that. But you did that in order to prevent his gayness. And might I say, you really can't be gay at 2 years old. And a lot of people would argue with that. Of course, they say you're born to be gay. So if you were born to be gay, obviously, then you are gay at 2 years old, according to that theory. Of course, you're gay the entire time, or whatever it is. Maybe you're pansexual, maybe you're fluid, maybe you were born fluid. I don't even know what any of it means. All right. But okay, inevitably, let's say this boy who you slapped around, now you're not allowed to see him, probably till he's an adult. Probably. That's probably a part of your sentencing. Now, whether or not you might see him because you are illegal, your wife's probably illegal. You're running an illegal baby factory here, which is probably very prevalent and stuff like that. So perhaps you will just fall right back in line 6 years from now because you got a 6 year sentence. But you would go so called on the run. Either that or they would deport you and then you can't come back. I don't know what you got going on in the other country. All right, but here's the thing about it. Let's imagine that the kid grows up and we wish the kid all the best. Thankfully, doesn't seem like he was permanently injured, but however, psychologically, he was probably permanently injured. When you think about it, I mean, a 2-year-old, all things you're gonna remember, even in especially in your subconscious from when you were 2 years old, especially as traumatic as getting slapped across the face with your little ass scrawny neck, and that's pretty traumatic, right? And told not to be gay, even though technically you shouldn't even know what gay is. Can you imagine if you're a 2-year-old child? Let's put on our imagination shoes. Let's imagine that we were 2 years old and that, and for whatever reason, somehow we did not know what it meant to be gay. And perhaps these days, 1 year old and 2 year olds know exactly what it means to be gay. And that's a thing that never ever existed in like recent history. People, that was not a thing. All right. But so assuming, okay, it seems as though it was never a thing. But at 2 years old, let's imagine you didn't even know what gay was. And you got a father over here living, and it almost seems random to you because you don't know what gay is. And he's wanting you to not be gay for some reason. He's a very hateful bigot and also an illegal invader into this country, setting up baby factories. For some reason, he thinks that as a baby what is gay and what is not gay. And since you're picking up your sister's dolls, since you have only sisters and there's four of them, it is a baby factory. You having to pick up dolls and you're thinking as a baby, this is a toy and they're playing with toys and I want to play with it. You pick it up. You're like, oh, this is a toy that just like my sisters play with. Your father becomes angry and frustrated. He starts interrogating you about whether or not you're gay. He slaps you across the face. Does any of this make sense? As a 2-year-old, probably not. And is it going to be deeply embedded into your psyche throughout the rest of your life? I would imagine it is. And to think about a father doing it, well, it just doesn't make any sense at all because number one, first of all, you can't see your children technically, according to the law, even though you are an outlaw, even though you're basically above the law. And I mean, just imagine your son actually grows up without his father in his life, or with his father very well estranged from him. And he'll eventually come to know why, especially why his father is not around. And it'll become abundantly clear that as a 2-year-old little baby, you were accused of being gay and got slapped in your face on many more than 4 occasions. I mean, four in the last occasion, and then multiple other times you have been slapped at least to the quantity of 4 times across your face for being a gay baby at 2 years old. So you can imagine, and really, Lord knows, there's a world of possibilities. But as we get up out of here, imagine it was binary. And I know it's very simple for the world that we've fallen into, but imagine it was binary. Imagine this young guy grows up to be straight. That would be pretty damn awkward, wouldn't it? It'd be pretty damn awkward. I would need someone to really, really explain, like, Imagine if the boy was grown up and he was straight, and he knows that his father was slapping around for being gay, slapping around at 2 years old for being gay. That's kind of, I don't know what word to ascribe to that. But then on the other end, you know, of the extreme, I don't know what's exactly extreme, but let's say the boy grew up to be, in fact, gay. There certainly is a possibility, even still, and especially still. Can you imagine if your boy did grow up and, in fact, was gay? That would either prove you to be a retard in one way, in fact, because you were unable to beat the gay up out of your son. You trying to beat the gay out, and it just didn't work. And I don't know what that says about you as a man, but you already knew that the gay could be beaten out, but you were incapable of beating out the gay of your son. All right, either that, or perhaps the trauma itself. And later on, depending on what age you come to the knowledge that your father was beating you for being gay at 2 years old, perhaps even that trauma would cause you to, in fact, be gay. And it would, in fact, ensure against all odds that you are going to be gay. Wouldn't that be even worse? All sort of nightmare scenarios come out of this. But these people are dreamers, and they're up in our country, and there's gonna be some sort of um, fallout from that. And I wish everybody the best. I sincerely wish everybody the best, to include all these people who I'm talking about, and no sort of physical harm on any of those people, right? Any of these people, especially Billy Gates, who keeps, I gotta say, keeps passively aggressively threatening everybody. Am I right, or am I tripping? Also, where in the world is Ellen Page? We'll talk about it more actually some other time, but where in the world is Ellen Page? And I mean it. I'm kind of worried about it. Is it possible? We'll talk about it more later. Is it possible to ever get Ellen Page back? I miss her. All right. Uh, you know, it's kind of funny. You don't know what you got until it's gone and had transgender surgery. All right. And we'll talk about it later. It's September the 14th. Those are all the things for the time capsule. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. That's for today. Certainly, there's going to be another meme from Donald Trump and the like to share tomorrow. All right. It's all going at light speed. These are the end of days. It's the end of the world. All right. It's for sure the end of America. I'll holler at y'all a little bit later.